prelude. How was your week? The whole thing. Let's get it all out.
Yeah, week was good. My Cinefest screening went great. So
Yes, you didn't
yeah,
talk about that. You're right.
yeah.
I actually had a dream 2 nights ago, and I felt really bad that I didn't get to show up to the screening that you had in New York the following day after we recorded. So I felt bad about that. Anyway, I'm
Yeah.
just letting that off my chest. Anyway, how did the Cinefest screening go?
Yeah, it went great. Magnus was there and we did a Q&A. Yeah, it was pretty awesome. And
Magnus, for those who don't remember, is the child actor who is your illegitimate child who they don't know about and you don't know about. No one knows that.
yeah, and the rapper, I told you the rapper who did our theme
Our
song.
rapper
Yes.
who shout out, come on, shout out.
Yeah, Smooth. Smooth was
Let him
there.
know because the first time that we played the song, on here, we just say, "Do we want to play the song?" You don't get to give a background story to who he is. So let's.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah, I met him through my short film and he was awesome. And then when we were doing the podcast, reached out and said, "Hey, could you do us a song?" And then he wrote all those original lyrics. It's pretty incredible.
What was your input to him? Like, what did you tell him about what we were doing? Because he just kind of like it magically came up, but you must have given him, some direction.
I told him that we were doing a movie podcast. I gave him the title and I told him our names. And that was pretty much it. Yeah. And I said, do something kind of short, keep it simple. I said, don't do too much work. And he came back to me with, a full minute or more of like almost like a whole song. And yeah, he had written all these incredible lyrics.
And then you beat him into submission with revision after revision after revision. Or no, what did you do?
Then I asked for a few revisions, but our revisions really improved it over time.
According to you, yes, of course.
Originally, he didn't have the title of the show in the song. He had ended with our names.
Okay.
Yeah, he had ended with our names. And I thought, I wonder if the last line of the song should be light up the dark, And I said, what if we end with that? And he's like, okay, okay. And then because it's a new phrase with the word dark at the end, now he has to kind of rewrite some of the wording to create the rhyme scheme. So he had to change some of the lyrics. And then the lyrics that he wrote for the second draft, I was blown away. And I thought were even better than the first draft. And then we kind of created this combination version that became the final version.
That's really cool. It became a collaborative effort. I don't want to mean to dissuade that. Yeah. He's 98% giving everything to it. You gave a little 2% and it became a collaborative effort, but he's the mastermind behind it, you have to say, I'm assuming.
Yeah, he was incredible too, because I did ask for a few more revisions. Then little things started jumping out at me. And then I started saying,
of course they did. Of course they did.
And then
as you are you cannot take that away from you being you. Yes.
And so then I asked him for a few revisions after that, and he was incredible. And he just was rolling with it and said, I can do that.
Yeah, you didn't get to see him roaming around his apartment going, I want to kill this man. I hate this person. I don't know why I signed on to doing this with him. You didn't get to see that aspect. You got to see the emails that come back. Go, sure, no problem. We'll do that.
Exactly. So huge shout out to Smooth for the theme song. He's at Stay Smooth on Instagram and YouTube. Stay Smooth. His music is incredible.
How do you spell it? Because a lot of people be SMOOVE, SMUVE. They won't know. Let's.
He spells it in a cool way. It's SMU with an umlaut over it. TH.
Ooh.
So SMUTH, and it has an umlaut. Hazel figured it out. She asked him recently, she goes, did you put the umlaut over the U so that it looks like a smile? Because it's 2 dots and then a little half, circle.
Right.
And he smiled and he said, yeah, I did. You figured it out.
So if somebody doesn't do the umlaut, do they not find him? Or can you do a U without the umlaut?
If you write just a U, I'm hoping it would pop up. But the umlaut is very cool and it looks cool. And it fits him perfectly because he's a really happy, positive guy. He's got incredible energy. And it makes sense that he would have a smile in his name.
he dealt with you. He dealt with you through post production. He's definitely a cool, smooth fucking man right here.
They don't chase clout, they just chase the lore. Dig scenes that the mainstream ignores, where light fights dark in a fabled war. Yeah, the truth gets told when the movie's born. I'm the break in the flicker, the cut in the edit, the blade through the credits, a frame they embedded. Light in the distance, persistence poetic. The dark is a prison, I brighten with aesthetic. No stunt doubles, I tumble through trap fights. The scripts in my soul, I control when my track spikes. Whisper in a reel, I reveal with the black light. The dark is a canvas that I carve with the flashlight. Call it a war cry, a cinematic spark, a puzzle in the shadows, a code of the art. It's Andrew and Greg and the legacy embarks. Our voices ignite and we light up the dark.
This is an interesting opportunity because this is your first full pick.
Yeah.
And I was grilling you about that. Like, what type of pick is this for Andrew? I was like, is this deep, deep metaphor pick? Is this deep, deep this type of pick? And you were like, no, it's a little bit less that. And I was like, okay, I'll watch it like that. But then I kind of couldn't help myself watching it, knowing it's your first official pick, going like, okay.
Right.
I'm looking at certain metaphors throughout here. So I'm interested for this episode. Why did you pick Casino Royale as your first official pick?
I wondered if you would remember our very brief history with this movie.
Is this college related?
Yes.
I was thinking a guess about what metaphors this movie could mean as a first pick. I didn't understand that there might be like a connection back to like a thing that we used to have together in a college years 20 fucking years ago, over 20 years ago, to this film. Please enlighten me. I burned a lot of brain cells in the past 25 years.
You and I actually talked about this movie back in 2006 when it came out. We must have still been in communication enough with each other where we did very briefly, I remember, we texted with each other about this movie, Casino Royale.
Holy shit. This is before I had an iPhone because before it was there. So I had to do like the numbers like AAA, BBB, CCC. Like if we texted back then, it meant a lot.
I remember when the movie came out, I went to see it and I texted you my reaction about the movie. I gave you my little brief review. The significance of that is that back in 2006, I hated this movie. You know, because this is, of course, we're in our, early 20s.
And Andrew hates everything in his early 20s.
Yeah, that was probably like the default reaction back then. And this was not the James Bond movie that 23-year-old Andrew wanted in 2006. And so I saw the film, I texted you, and I said, oh, yeah, saw Casino Royale. Hated it, it's so boring. I think what I texted you, to my recollection, is that, oh, the middle part is so boring. He just plays poker for like an hour, and I was like, it doesn't really even have an ending. Like the villain dies like 2/3 of the way through the movie. He's not even in the entire third act of the movie. And, my young brain back then couldn't wrap its head around that. And I just thought this is like, it's not a good movie. It's not well structured. It's not well written. And it's not the actor that I want to play James Bond. Basically, there's like nothing about this that's the James Bond that I wanted. And I texted you that. And I don't know if you remember this part, but if I may say.
Please say.
I remember you texted me back and you said, yeah, I saw it too. I totally agree. I don't know if you remember that.
I honestly don't, but I think from what you're saying right now, you might have destroyed my first viewing on this movie.
I think I might have.
I think you probably did. Because this movie, I've had in the past 20 years, I've never rewatched until it was your pick, and this past week I watched it. But I had very bad feelings about this film, and I think you might have been a big influence on that. You might have, because I wasn't super pumped for this movie to come out. I was just like, oh, it's another James Bond movie. Okay, new actor. I'll go in. I'll see the revamp. Let's see what they're doing. I think if I got a text like that from you at this time going, I'm so excited, I can't wait to go see this. And then you go, it's fucking bullshit, and here's why. And then I go into my viewing with that. I'm just going to come out with that viewing going, yeah, okay, I see all the bad.
Yeah.
And this comes back to the other conversation that we were having of like, do movies change or do you change? Because I had a different viewing this time. And I find but also, did I have a different viewing because you recommended it? I don't know. There's different things, but I did try to look at this through a different lens. And I mean, the start of my viewing of this one was not good. This time, even I
Oh,
still
wow.
was going because by now I couldn't erase everything. I was like, oh, I've seen the other ones. I kind of know what's there, and I watched these in the background. I'd never like. It's not been a James Bond to me was when growing up. I was like, okay, it's Sean Connery. I never saw the Roger Moore. I've never seen one of his straight through.
Yeah.
I've
Yeah.
and then I saw the Pierce Brosnan, throughout high school years and this and that. I'm like, okay, entertaining. And then there's the, obviously the weirdness with the fucking okay, he's paragliding through God knows what, and I don't even it's just all a blur like
Right.
those.
Right.
And then I remember these being more like, okay, I like this guy, but I never watched it for anything other than surface level. I've never watched James Bond. I like Dr. No and I like Goldfinger when I was growing up for some reason. I don't know. Comfort, kid mode, whatever. This one, when you picked it, I went very weird pick for Andrew. Why would Andrew pick this movie? But
Oh, wow.
now I see the meaning behind it because you have to have meaning. You're kind of pointing out like this was a first connection of a movie review that we'd had at the last endpoint, and now this is the new beginning of our conversations again. And if we're going to structure it, let's make it be about structure. So I appreciate that. I appreciate that
Yeah.
about
Yeah.
about you and the way you approach things.
Yeah, and also I chose it because I had that strong reaction, and then of course I've 180 degrees turned around, and
Yeah.
I now think this movie is an absolute masterpiece.
And when was the last time, sorry, when was the last time you watched it prior to this weekend? How many times have you watched it since like 2006?
Yeah, what happened to me over the years is, I first saw it, didn't like it. I kept watching the Daniel Craig movies as they came out. And I think that just over the years, I just kept returning to this movie. And every time I would watch it, I just like it more and more.
Did you like the other Daniel Craigs as they were coming out that made you rewatch it, or what was the reason that you went back to it?
Yes, I think so. This might be the best modern movie franchise in terms of, IP, and just the quality of the films, and what they were able to achieve with the character and all of that. So yeah, for me, I just got completely turned around, and what I realized is just like what they were doing with this version of the character was all kind of new, and it was just so different, and it was like cold water in your face. It was just like jarring, and I think I just had that reaction of like, what is this? And I don't like it. Kind of similar to the way we described first hearing Bob Dylan, you know.
Yes. Now, my reaction to this new viewing was this is like Batman Begins meets The Bourne Identity. It's an origin story. Got it. I see where we're going. I like the black and white. I like where we're going. And then they go flashback within the flashback in the opening scene. I go, okay, this is interesting. And then I started looking at it from a different level, going like, all right, if I'm gonna like do a reboot on this, and it's 2006, and I'm the director, and I'm gonna do a reboot. I go, would I be doing anything different than this guy right now? And I go, no, actually, I wouldn't. And then I started looking at it a different way. I was like, this is a really good way of bringing you back into this character. What started hitting me throughout it, even though like the first 20, 30 minutes, for some reason I was still, and maybe subconsciously, I still had a little bit of like deep in the tockles of my brain. I don't know, but I was still sitting there a little negative on the pick.
Okay.
For whatever reason. But then it started growing on me throughout it. And we'll go back, and I'm just jumping over everything, but we'll go back into it like beat by beat throughout it. But
Yeah.
it started growing on me, and I was like, okay, you're drawing me in. I'm getting there. I'm into this. And then the structure of the movie started throwing me off because I wasn't looking at the time of where it was at, but I always thought I remembered like Casino Royale. Okay, the end of the movie is going to be the showdown where they're playing fucking, poker against each other at the thing. And then I'm sitting there going, wait a minute, this is happening so quick. I was like, why the fuck are they like, we're like an hour and 20. I don't know the exact time, but I'm like, this isn't like the Face Off. This movie's not done. I remember this movie being longer. And then they get through that, and I'm like, oh wait, he's already like paddled himself and he's done all this other shit. I'm like, wait, there's a whole second half of this movie. Like the structure to me in my brain was the face off of this movie, because I hadn't watched it in over 20 years, was, oh, they play poker with each other, and that's the ending. And I remember going, we got here so quick. I wasn't prepared for this, and it threw me off.
Yeah.
So then I started thinking about the structure of the film, and then thinking about, okay, what is the character doing throughout this film? What is all the other aspects of the film? Because I always remembered the fucking, The Office, hardcore parkour, like the parkour opening. That was the first thing I remember seeing back in the day. And for some reason, I had a stupid thought process in my brain, just going, oh, okay, you're going to do a parkour opening to it. Rewatching it, I was semi still in that, but I was also seeing certain jokes that were going on within there, like him running through the wall. I was like, dude, you're fucking Terminator right now. Like, what is the character that we're setting up right now? Like, does he know what's on the other side of that wall? He has no idea. Does he know that he can run through that wall? He just does it. Like, what are we setting up? And we're setting up what's always been in the James Bond aspect. There's like a silliness in there. There's a playfulness, and there's something going on there. So that aspect, I was much more looking at that now from a technician's standpoint of going, like, this is a really hard scene to pull together. Like that entirety of that is done so well, and it's shot beautifully. Like, every aspect of that sequence is fantastic.
This parkour sequence might be the single greatest action sequence in movie history. At least I was curious what you would say to compare with that. Because if I said, okay, let's do a little poker game where we each bring one to the table and we see which one, is
Jackie Chan Rumble in the Bronx.
Right? Okay, so yours is Jackie Chan Rumble in the Bronx. So I would put the parkour sequence in Casino Royale up against that and say which is actually better.
Well, then you have to take into consideration timing of this. One is 1995 and the other one's 11 years later.
But see, that's what makes this one so good, is that it's more recent, where the technology improved, and what they were able to do with like the stunts, the set, the destruction of the construction set, the construction area, just the speed of the editing, and the two guys in the sequence. Daniel Craig is young enough where he can do all these physical stunts, and they get the creator of parkour.
But he still had a stunt double come in there. He's not the guy on the 185-foot. Jackie Chan, all his own stunts, and I have to say, I think it does matter. I can't say, and I will never say, that parkour they brought. The parkour sequence of that guy, that's the guy who invented free running. The man who's in that. Great. Amazing. I love it. You're jumping through things, but you're also running through walls in there. And I'm sorry, Jackie Chan doing what he's doing in Rumble in the Bronx. 007, great. Hardcore parkour. Good. Good for you. You're not Jackie Chan. Sorry. Love it. You're not Jackie Chan. I love it. I think it was great. I just can't put it in Jackie Chan's category. That's just me.
M says in the movie, you're a blunt instrument. She calls him a blunt instrument.
She does. You're right.
That's the style of this character. He's not an elegant martial artist who has great form, and, he's more just pure raw power. He is the Terminator. He's destruction, and so he breaks through walls, and he has this whole construction site crashing down and blowing up. He's like almost like Sylvester Stallone. He's the demolition man,
Yeah, he doesn't care. He's taking down the entire building and everyone around it just to get at the. He is the Terminator within that sequence. Like, I mean, there's people that have been working months to build those buildings, and he just comes in with a fucking cat and he just tears it all down, having zero will or care for any of these people. My thought process, because as I was watching it this time, I was thinking back, going like, what didn't I like about this? Like, I'm like, okay, good action, hardcore parkour, and I was like, okay, it's a little studio. What are we doing here? We're doing action at every moment, but it's not like Speed, and we're still conflating certain things. Now he's got this love interest, and now these people might be double crossing. Now later he's falling in with this one. I was just like, okay. Like if you space out for a couple seconds and you're kind of just like, I don't care, you're not going to go back into it. And now I'm thinking that potentially you texting me, hey, I hated this thing. I think I went into that with going, Andrew hated this.
Right.
You, again, weirdly brought me back into it. I started looking at themes of this movie. And I go, why would Andrew pick this film? Why would he pick this film? And one of my weird aspects about this film that I started picking up was that it was a metaphor for teenage heartbreak. And I was like,
okay, wow.
And then it's a man getting hard and cold and just dives into work. And I was like looking at that as being one of the potential metaphors of this specific film. And in the origin story, we get to see Bond born, and he's never going to trust again. And I was like, that's a version of Bond that we've never seen. We've always seen him stern and cold after he's figured out all of his shit. He wants his martini shaken, not stirred. But right now, we actually get to see a guy who's like, all over the place. And he's fucking sitting there like downing 5 shots when he's in the bathroom. And he's like, okay, I just got over this certain fucking thing. What's my next thing? Like, he's not a complete human as of yet. We're almost getting to see like a fledgling 18-year-old child trying to figure out their way into the world. And that was an aspect that I got to watch this time from an interesting point of view. And they're even pointing that out in things like when he first gets in his first car, he's driving like a Ford. Now, I don't know much about cars, but I know the fact that like James Bond drives an Aston Martin. Like he always is in his place doing what he does. Now, they cut to a front shot of a car and it says Ford on it. And I'm like, okay, well, obviously they're saying something by this. Like, this is a little fledgling character that you're seeing who's not fully developed into the James Bond that you know as of yet. You're getting to see him prior to that. And you get to see his interactions with M prior to that, which is also very interesting. So all of those aspects I started looking at, and potentially only for the reason that you put this as your number one pick. I probably still would have watched this surface level, and as soon as it got to the parkour, I would have been like, okay, parkour, we're running through walls, it's Terminator, we're doing Jason Bourne, we're doing Batman Begins, got it. But I started seeing other themes throughout it, such as even in the end of the movie, as the building is crumbling, like this is a metaphor for the happy love life with someone that was going to have that is now non-existent for him. This is Vesper drowning and she's gone. And that ideological viewpoint of I can be happy, because he basically couldn't wait to just quit what he, set his entire life up to that we've seen, which is like work for M, brainwash yourself, go here, go there. And immediately he's just like, I'll drop this for a woman. And this is literally what he wanted. Like you can see him just being like, I've got just about enough money to like live. Maybe we can live the rest of our lives. Maybe we'll go away. We'll live on a beach together forever. And he wants to be domesticated and he wants to choose that love over his job, but he can't. And if he was able to, he would just go that way. And that was that was my metaphor for the teenage little heartbreak where you're like, oh, I just want to be in love. I just want this. I just want that. But as soon as he has the inkling of, wait a minute, I gave myself fully over to you, and now I feel that you've betrayed me. Fuck it. I'm back. I'm dead inside, and I will just be the James Bond that you guys have always seen. I'll have no emotion when it comes to Bond ladies, and I'll just fuck them, and I'll move on, and I'll do my job, and I just... Because he has resonance in the beginning of this, of like, yes, I didn't think I was going to be around here long enough. I thought I was going to be killed, blah, blah, blah. There's not that much to live for, all that type of shit. I've rambled enough. Sorry.
Yes, he says to M, I hear double O's have a very short life expectancy. So he's almost suicidal in a way. He's almost like he doesn't care if he lives or dies. And he has this recklessness about him. So he is very, I noticed that on this viewing, that he has this very youthful male energy of like arrogance, cockiness, and recklessness. And it does get him in trouble. And I thought that was one of the most fun things about this version of the character, is that he is raw and he's kind of unshaped into the Bond that we know. And so part of the joy is, yes, you get to see how that was shaped. The best thing about the movie might be how they reinvented Bond's psychology, to make it more three-dimensional, more real. They made you understand who is James Bond. And I was thinking about that as I was watching it, that you have the Sean Connery version of James Bond, who I think is really more of a cartoon character. I don't think that what we think of as James Bond and maybe the definitive Bond, Sean Connery, the original, is really not that deep of a character. That I haven't revisited those films in a while. We can pick
It's
them.
not.
And,
It's surface level.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is a great prelude, not just to this origin story of this character within his thing, but it made every other James Bond make sense to me, because you're basically going, you finally understand why James Bond is always been surface level. We got to see the underbelly of him in this movie.
Yeah, I realized that's what happened by taking away the jokes and doing a more serious portrayal. They were able to actually create a real character. Like, this is not a James Bond movie. This is just a great movie. It's a great action movie. I think it's the best James Bond movie. It's like they were able to elevate the James Bond franchise and bring it into the modern age and make it something that people can love again and something that people can understand.
This, you have the character being the driving force of the movie, and you have a way into the film. Every other Sean Connery and this and that, but you go into those movies knowing, oh, it's James Bond. The plot is going to move James Bond through this story. This one, we're going, James Bond is moving us from point A to point B to point C through the character of James Bond. And I think that was the thing that hit me when watching it this time, after I got past the opening, okay, we're going to be parkour for 20 minutes, because that wanted to suck me back into just going, okay, got it. Just because I was really black and white opening, this and that, flashback within flashback. I was like, oh, okay, I'm in. This is interesting. I'm into character. And then I go, okay, now we're running through walls. And I go, okay, the rest of the movie's going to be like this. I started the space a little bit, but then it brought back, and I go, oh, wait a minute. No, we're not doing that. We actually have character development throughout this film. Like any other James Bond movie, at least the ones that I've seen, even, all the Sean Connerys, he's the same person at the beginning of that movie that he is at the end of that movie. And you go, okay, it's James Bond. Got it. I know what I'm in for. So I went into this movie, even on this viewing, going, okay, he's James Bond at the beginning, he's going to be James Bond at the end. But he's not the same James Bond at the beginning of this movie that he is at the end of this movie. He's vastly different. At the beginning of this movie, he's not James Bond.
Right.
He's just a guy who decided to sign up for this, and there's the backstory of like, oh, are you an orphan, and the whole fucking thing and all that, and you go, oh, wait a minute, hold on, we're teasing on things I've never even thought about this person, because I never thought deeply about this person in any way whatsoever. Who is the person that would sign up to be like, yeah, I'll give my life away to God and country and don't care, and I have no whatever the fuck in the Mission Impossible type way. But by the end of it, when he goes, I'm fucking Bond, James Bond, weirdly to me, I'm more excited to see the sequel now, to go in like, how do you make that exciting after this? Because he's given himself over. He's not himself anymore. He's not that little boy that you've seen who went through this and has a little turmoil, and now I'm going to leave everything for a girl, and I've got, oh, she broke my heart. Now fuck it. I'm just going to sign up and I'm going to do work, and I don't care if I die. Like, that's where the end of this movie is.
Yeah. Yeah, they were able to take all of the elements that we know define James Bond, like he's an agent, he works for the British government, and he, doesn't trust women, he uses women, he sleeps around with women, this kind of stuff. And it took all these elements and it gave it like an explanation. It's like you understand why. And it also changed it a little bit too, which I really loved. Like, for instance, at the beginning, he seduces Demetrius's wife.
Yes.
The woman on the beach, right? And then he seduces her and he takes her into the bedroom and they're kissing. And then
he should have just fucked her. He shouldn't have said, I only room service, only for one. I know it's a great plot point. Just fuck her and then leave. I don't know.
But see, that's what Sean Connery would have done.
I know. That's
and
why I
that's
was
the
like,
difference.
it is the difference.
Exactly. And I love that.
But the weird difference about that is he's in that point, he's still more into I'm giving myself over to the job. The job is number one. As soon as he meets the next love of his life and he goes like, oh, wait, it's not the next love of his life. It's the first love of his life. Like that's as they're presenting it, at least to us. Maybe he was in love with somebody when he was 7. We don't need to have the origin story of James Bond when he's 7 years old and somebody kicks him in the head with a soccer ball and then he decides, I'm going to go here. We don't need that. But this is enough of an origin story where you go, okay, I get to see him fall in love with seemingly he's completely head over heels. He's done. He's like, I'm done. I'm this. We're just gonna sail. We're gonna go to Venice. How long is our money gonna last? It doesn't matter. I'm in it. We're going. It doesn't. None of it matters. Life doesn't matter. What life matters is being with you at this moment. And then you're watching that 20-minute segment, and you're sitting there going like, "Fuck, when is this not gonna work out?" Like that was my viewing of him. I was sitting there going like, I so want this to work out for him, and it's not gonna. Like you're just sitting there going like, what's gonna happen? Is someone gonna come in and kill her? Is this and that? And then when you realize, I think they did a really good job of that because I wasn't sitting there going like, she's gonna fuck him over. It came into my mind 2 or 3 times. I'm like, no, you can't do that. No, you can't do that to me.
Yeah.
And then when they tease it and you go, oh no, she is because she took the thing and she's walking away. And then there's the, oh no, but she left her phone here because of this. And then M gives him the excuse. Oh,
yeah. This movie has so much gray area. It made me a little bit think about Eyes Wide Shut in the sense of it's like almost like infiltrating the world of the rich and kind of, seeing this sort of mysterious elite world that, you didn't know existed prior. And with that comes this kind of mystery where you don't really know what's going on, like the plot is actually very complicated, and it kind of unfolds and information is revealed slowly and it sort of shifts and you don't really get the full picture until the very, very end. And I think that's one of the things that's so great about the movie is that it's very mature, very well written. And yeah, it's like really complicated story. So it's like with these kind of questions or interpretations, or it's open to interpretation. How much did Vesper love him? And yeah, when did she decide to do what? These kind of questions. How much did M know?
That's interesting.
Right?
I didn't think about that. How much did M know? That's interesting. You ever had one of those nights where you realize you've just spent 45 minutes reading about medieval sword fighting techniques and somehow you still haven't paid your electric bill? Yeah, me too. That's why this episode is sponsored by Focus Funnel, the first productivity app designed for people who mean well but get distracted by literally everything. Focus Funnel doesn't just block social media. It blocks recipes, conspiracy theories, even that one article about how Macaulay Culkin is now. Yeah, it knows you. You set a task, Focus Funnel builds a digital task moat around it. You either complete a task or you sit in silence like a medieval peasant until you do. Download Focus Funnel today. Use promo code Andrew and Greg for 30 free minutes of guilt-free web surfing once you finish your to-do list. Focus Funnel, for brains that mean well but wander hard.
Not only that, but this movie then has another action sequence that's almost just as good, which I would say is also one of the greatest action sequences, which is the Miami-Dade airport action sequence. What did you think of that one?
This is the one when they have the bodies exhibit.
No, well, the bodies leads into it, and then he goes to the Miami airport, and they're going to unveil the large airplane.
Oh!
Yes. And he has to chase the guy and stop the bomb.
Right. So we've yet to get, because you said you wanted to do this. What is your favorite shot in the movie? We didn't do that for this film as of yet. We said we were gonna
Right.
maybe make that a thing.
It's funny you asked that at this exact moment in the conversation because I don't know if this is my favorite shot in the movie, but one shot that really jumps to mind is the overhead shot when he's in the middle of that chase and he's hanging on top of the truck and the villain is driving the truck and the villain swerves into an oncoming car and Bond has to leap across the car and they do an overhead shot and he rolls and they show you how close he came to getting run over. Do you remember that?
I don't remember that one, but one of my top two contenders of favorite shots in this movie, because there's not great long one shots, is within that sequence. So I don't
Okay.
remember that one, but I'm gonna go back and look for that.
Yeah. Just the geography of it and the overhead angle. And Bond leaps and they cut to this overhead angle and that those two cars pass each other and Bond just barely rolls out of harm's way.
Now I have to
And
go back
it's
and
just
rewatch
such an
this.
exciting moment. I mean, that sequence is so exciting. So I feel like over the years, to me, this movie has crept up in reputation where it does deserve to be in the conversation of like greatest action movie of all time.
I would give it at the conversation. Yeah.
Yeah, at least to
Jackie
put it
Chan
on
Jackie
the
Chan still
list.
wins, but I give it
Yeah.
it's in the conversation. Now, to go on a deeper level of, because I watched this on the Andrew level, I need to know the metaphors that you're seeing inside of this. And I was looking for them when watching this. Like, are you looking at the fact that they have the bodies exhibit in Florida in like the airport in there? Are you looking at the bodies exhibit as like a metaphor for like life being exposed? James Bond is vulnerable within this movie, and he's like ultimately disposable to the people that are running him. Like, what are the weird, deep Andrew metaphors that he's seeing? I want to go deep, 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 and then we can go
Okay,
back to
yeah.
surface.
Yeah, okay. I was thinking as I was watching it this time, there's this idea of the game of death, that the idea of life as a poker game, that everybody's bluffing, that they play a game in the movie, but then life is a game.
Here we go. This is great. This is great. This is why we talk. This is what we play for. Here we go.
Uh, I mean, I picked the movie just because I love the movie. I love action movies. I love action sequences. I love
I
James
know that
Bond.
that
I
was
mean,
surface
yeah,
that was surface
right,
level. I don't care about the surface level. I can get the surface level. I want to get the
right,
Andrew
okay.
deep level. This is what I want.
As I was watching it this time, this just jumped out at me. Is during the credits, I noticed that the credit sequence of this film is playing cards that are arranged in the shape of people, and he's fighting these people, and he's punching them.
You mean the opening Bond sequence? Yeah,
The
yeah, yeah,
credit
yeah.
sequence. Yes, the credit sequence. Um, so he's punching people and the cards fall. So, the house of cards falling when he kills the people in the credit sequence, which connects to what you were saying about the house in Venice at the end falling, which is like the house falling, which is like the house, the
Oh,
metaphorical house that Vesper and he would have shared, right? It's like a metaphor for their normal conventional life that they could have had, but it falls and submerges under the water. But it's also like a house of cards. And I noticed how the first death that he causes, his first murder, right, which they make a very big
this is
deal
in the
of.
flash. This is in the
Yes,
flashback
yes,
within the. He drowns him in the sink.
exactly. How does he kill? What's his first kill? It's a drowning.
Drowning.
Exactly.
Oh. Oh no.
Exactly.
Okay.
And so
Okay.
it's as if that kill reverberates through time and comes back and gets him in the end, and it doesn't kill him, but it kills Vesper and she drowns.
Oh, this is why we have these conversations. That's good.
The card game never stops. They're never not playing cards. They're never not bluffing. this comes back to the connection of like Eyes Wide Shut, that basically Bond infiltrates this elite world of the super rich to such a level where he doesn't even see who's involved. You know, it's a hidden class of people, right? The Spectre, Mr. White.
Right. That's when M even goes, it's run cold. We can't go further. And his only last link.
Not even the British government, with all their intelligence, they don't even know. That's how secret and powerful this organization is. So it has this kind of almost like Illuminati kind of overtone to it. And so when you get into a world like that, when you enter into that level of society, you are playing a game of death. Because at that level,
Bruce Lee.
Exactly. And that's a movie where he goes up the stairs. He goes
Pagoda.
up the levels.
Goes up the
That's
pagoda.
right. And he ascends higher and higher through the ranking. And I thought as I was watching it this time that Bond does go through almost like this initiation.
Reluctantly, though, which is interesting about why we like that character and why I like him within this. He doesn't really want to be doing that.
He's initiated into this world of the rich, and the way that he is initiated is that he survives these murder attempts, you know, that they try to knock him off as he's going. And because he's able to win at every turn, he's able to quote unquote win the hand, and he's able to continue to ascend up the ranking, and that's how he finds Mr. White. You know, Le Chiffre is too low level of a villain basically for Bond. Like, Le Chiffre is a good challenge for Bond, but he's not Bond's arch nemesis. He's not the final boss. He's actually just the very first villain. He's like the lowest level. I think they even call him an accountant in the movie. He's just the rich people's accountant. You know, he's not really that scary of a guy. In fact, he actually...
And he's stealing for himself the entire way of going, how do I take this money, make a bunch of money out of it real quick, and then put it back in as if I didn't use it.
Yeah.
I'll short this stock. Yeah.
Great villain, and played beautifully. And Mads Mikkelsen, incredible, right? And I love how he's almost like this. He is like the mirror of Bond, where he's super suave, stylish, handsome, like super cool.
Yeah, but he can't fight Bond hand to hand. He's not that character. He's the character. If you're tied to a chair and you have no way out, I could torture you, and I could be sociopathic within that. But hand to hand, they're never gonna face off against each other.
Right.
They're facing off mind to mind the entire movie, which is why the poker game becomes a metaphor for that.
He's the Lex Luthor to Bond's Superman,
yes,
where he's
100%.
trying to win. He's trying to win through trickery and deceit and calculation. And Bond is also very smart. Bond can calculate and deceive as well, but he has something Le Chiffre doesn't have, which is this kind of physical power.
Yeah.
And Le Chiffre tries to poison Bond, and it still doesn't even kill him. You know, it's like, and so Bond is able to push his way through and win at the game of death. And he's bluffing with Le Chiffre, but he's also bluffing with Vesper. Vesper's bluffing with him.
He's also bluffing with M in ways throughout this as well. Like there's one. Sorry, I don't want to interrupt if you're going on because I want to point out one thing I find very funny on repeat viewing of this, because it hit me when obviously being hit in the balls is exceedingly painful, especially when he starts with his first little tap where he goes underneath there. It's so pesky, and he just goes little tap, and he just puts it underneath there going whee. It's like flicking the balls with your finger can be a million times more painful than actually like hitting it, full force. But on repeat viewing, because you were like, watch it twice before we watch this. When they give him the tracking device in his arm, he holds his arm out, and M with the other guy sits there, and they put it in. He looks at him, he goes, ow.
Yeah.
And he makes a big deal of that. And he goes, ow. And when you watch the movie for the second time in a row, you go, wait, you said ow at that? But the first time you got hit in the balls so hard, you went, I'm holding this in. I'm gonna fucking deal with this. Like, but then you're a little fucking bitch when somebody goes, I'm putting this little needle in your arm, and you go, ow. He literally says ow like a 6-year-old boy, which throws me back to that thought process of like, this is the origin story of seeing a teenager for his heart broken for the first time. Anyway, sorry for the rant. I just had to point out it's really funny, him going, ow, and then being slammed in the balls and going, yes, please, sir, may I have another? It's a mindset.
Yeah, I mean, in that scene when Le Chiffre has him in that very compromising position, that is still I kept thinking to myself, the poker game hasn't ended. They're still bluffing with each other. And it's who holds the cards, it's who can hold out the longest. That's the game. All the way up until death.
And the problem with that is, though, if you're playing a poker game, you have to show your cards. In the game that they're playing where I'm going to torture you, Bond plays the card, which is he's 100% doing, which is I'm never going to show you my cards, because in this game of torture, I don't have to show you my cards. You can torture me until you cut my balls off, throw them down my throat, kill the woman I love, do whatever. I'm never going to tell you this.
Right.
Whether I know it or not, which he knows it, but he's going, I'm not bluffing here. This is going to be a long night for you, and it's going to be terrible for me, but I'm going to blank out all this pain, but I'm never going to tell you this at the end of this. And that's the thing that the character notices, the Mads Mikkelsen character notices. He goes, fuck, he's not going to tell me this, no matter what I do. He's not going to give this up. So that's the bluff that's over there at that point, when he goes like, you can take my body. I know I'm never leaving this room.
Yeah.
I'm never going to tell you.
Yeah, one of the things I love so much about this version of the character is that he just has this quality where he's always in control, even though he is reckless. It's like, yes, he's reckless, he's cocky, but he's cocky for a reason. It's because he knows he's so good. And maybe that's his real flaw, because he thinks he's too good, and then he starts to sort of falter. But it does give him this kind of competitive edge where he believes in himself and he's very confident. Like when he does lose the first time against Le Chiffre, he comes to Vesper, he says, I can beat this man. Like, it doesn't matter that I lost once. I'm still going to win. Like, I'm going to find a way to win no matter what. And it's that determination that enables him to survive. So even when he's in the most compromising position of all, and it seems like he has no cards left to play, he's just going to bluff his way through.
So I will say one caveat to that, which I love. Yes, I 100% agree with you. But I will say what they do in the great aspect of the third act turn of this movie is, yes, he's always in control. But when it comes to Vesper and it becomes to the love that he feels, then he's not in control. It's the one time this character gives up control and gives full, you have my heart, this is what I want beyond anything. And then you have that 20 minutes that I've explained, and you go, oh my God, we've never seen James Bond like this. And then you go, he realizes, when I give up control, life does not work out in my favor. Zoop! Now I'm the James Bond everyone knows. Fuck this shit. I'm shutting that down. M, what do you need? I trust nobody, but I kind of trust you, and I trust you 90% of the way, but that's as close as I'm going to get to trusting somebody right now. So that's where we're going, and we're going back into mommy's womb.
Yeah, it's interesting because Bond, he has a license to kill. So he kind of exists in the world of the dead. And something about the entire James Bond character that I've thought about over the years is how sex and death are so connected. The French call an orgasm the little death, right? So there is this kind of interesting connection between those two things of like creation and destruction and the kind of mirror forces of the universe.
So is the condom the destruction?
The credit sequences of the films often have a merging of those of that imagery of sex and death together. The gun is the metaphor for the penis. and the firing of the gun is the ejaculation, not to get too graphic, right? And Bond is this character who he does walk in the world of the dead. He has a license to kill. He is initiated into this world through killing. He's only allowed to be a 00. How do you become a 00? You have to kill, and you have to kill 2 people. So there's this specific initiation into the 00 status, into this secret world, the world of the rich. And I kind of connect that to the world of the dead, because then, of course, Bond, he goes on to have these metaphorical deaths, and in one case, actually a literal death. And so, yeah, I just wanted to mention that, and I can maybe try to edit that into what I was saying before.
No, I love that. There's the 00 version.
Bond, he goes into this high stakes world, where the card game is kind of like the metaphor for life. And, to lose all your cards and to be knocked out of the poker game is essentially a metaphor for death. And when all of the characters die in the movie, it's like they've essentially been knocked out of the game.
That's good.
Yeah. And, that happens to Le Chiffre, and it happens to Vesper, that both of those characters essentially play their hand as far as it will take them. And then they, quote unquote, run out of cards and they're removed, from the game. So I just thought that was interesting, that it's like he basically enters into this world of the rich, very high stakes world of life and death, where they kind of treat life like a game. And the normal rules of society do not apply to these people. The rich operate according to different rules than the rest of us. The rich don't operate according to rules of law, because money buys you maneuvers around the regular rules. And I thought, like, for instance, in this movie, Mathis, he plants the 2 dead bodies in a guy's trunk, right? So that's also like a card move. That's like a move in a poker game. He's trying to maneuver, he's trying to play the game in a way where he's trying to remove a player from the board. And that's the world that James Bond now inhabits, is this kind of world where the regular rules don't apply to you. It's almost like a world of the dead. It's almost like a world of ghosts. It's different rules. And so it's much, much higher stakes because it's much more dangerous.
That's a very good perspective of that. But bringing up the Mads Mikkelsen character and saying it's the world of people who have a lot of money. Think about Mads Mikkelsen's character. He's either at 0, or he's plus 100 million, or he's minus 100 million. Now, as he's playing that stakes of that game, he could be going not just a homeless person who's poor, who has no money. He's ready to be $100 million in debt. Meaning, what is his character when it's that? Like, that is the game that he is playing right there. Is not just, okay, I'm giving the facade of I have a tons of money, but I'm one hand away from being $100 million in debt, where any homeless person you meet on the street, the worst part about them monetarily is they have $0. Mads Mikkelsen is going to be $100 million behind them, and with people wanting to cut off his arms and legs.
Yeah, it's a very high stakes world. It's either right. You're either 100 million up or you're 100 million down. And by the way, in this world, there is no such thing as 100 million down. It's either you're 100 million up or you're dead. So you're betting with your life is essentially what you're doing.
So the last thing I kind of want to talk about, you didn't mention it, but I had at the beginning, I talked about the structure of the film feeling very different for me. And you haven't kind of mentioned the structure of that not being a specific like third act structure. That I'd love to hear how you feel that this movie is structured.
That's one of the things when I first saw the movie I really didn't like, was the structure, because I just felt like it wasn't satisfying. I didn't feel like I got a full 3-act structure with an ending. It had this open-ended ending that didn't really resolve the thread. You know, the thread is they're trying to figure out who's funding terrorism. They're trying to infiltrate this kind of terrorist criminal organization.
But it's the prologue of a character. Like, do you now get
Right.
that? It fuck the plot. This is all about James Bond. You get to see how he became James Bond. Like, that's the thing
Right.
that smacked me in the face. Not in the first 20, 30 minutes of this, but as I started going on, and then when they had the start of the love story, and when the love story ended, that's when it hit me on, oh, the whole movie is not a James Bond movie. This is an origin story of how this character became the cold-blooded person that he is. And when he goes, well, the bitch is dead. And I went, oh my God, I finally understand the entirety of this entire film. This entire film was showcasing to the audience, this is why this person is the way that you think this person is.
Yes. Much like what we said about A Complete Unknown when we talk about that, you said it's essentially the first act.
Oh man, we're gonna go Dylan. Are we gonna spiral into Dylan?
You said that movie's essentially like it's like a first act as a 3-act structure. You know, it's only the first part of his life. It's essentially the origin. And this movie has the same quality where it leaves you on that cliffhanger of wanting to know, where does this next breadcrumb lead? And it makes you want to see the next movie. It doesn't fully wrap it up. It gives you enough of a satisfying conclusion with Vesper, with Le Chiffre, to sort of put those pieces behind you and then be able to go into the next chapter. But it doesn't wrap it up in a way where this is just a self-contained story. Story's over. Next movie's going to be brand new story from scratch.
So now I'm excited. And I'm excited that you're presenting it to me in this way, because I have not watched the rest of those in that way. I might have seen them in the theaters, but I went in there for popcorn and I didn't care. Now, what I like about these films is now I'm getting the Andrew perspective, unlike the first time where Andrew said, I don't like this movie, and then I went in and saw this movie, and maybe I had my viewing as being a bad viewing because of that. Now Andrew's going, I'm giving a thumbs up to these films, and now I can have that through the perspective of going, okay, I'm coming in with an open mind and I should appreciate them. Now, number one, I will be open-minded on the next film no matter what, because I'm already excited to see it, because now I appreciate the first one. But now knowing that you know the other ones, and I've just like seen them once in the theater, half paying attention, but now I can look at it 20 years later and go, okay, Andrew's giving this a thumbs up, and I'm already into it. Like that's as Aladdin would say, a whole new world.
Yeah.
This episode is brought to you by Rewind Society, a private club for analog purists and those who still believe the tracking knob was mankind's greatest invention. Each month, members receive a hand-labeled, unmarked VHS tape in the mail. What's on it? That's not for us to say. Could be a taped over broadcast of WCW Nitro, a local furniture commercial from 1992, or something that was never meant to be recorded. All we ask is that you watch it alone, at night, and please, be kind, rewind. Apply now at Rewind Society. Use code Andrew and Greg .tapehiss to skip the beta testing waitlist. Rewind Society. The past is calling. Pick up a landline.
It's really fascinating because it opens with this kind of extended sort of prologue first act where it's Bond the agent, and he just goes on various missions, and there's 2 huge action sequences, and then they introduce Vesper, and then the movie changes and it becomes
on the train ride with them. You mean
the train? Yeah,
I think that's a great scene.
Incredible scene. I wanted to talk about just that scene by itself because I feel like it might be the best scene in the entire movie.
It dragged me in big time. I was like, oh, we're playing a different game here. We're playing a different hand.
Yeah, and even that scene, look at how it starts. It starts with them essentially reading each other, playing a little mini poker game with each other, right? They're reading, and they're not reading their cards, they're reading the face. They're reading, who are you as a person? And that, of course, extends along with what I said about, the metaphor of the game of life. But yeah, just that scene, I mean, just the dialogue, snappy, so punchy, the flirtiness, the look in their eyes, the chemistry. I mean, just every time I watch it, I'm just like, this is what you want as a director. This is like what you're trying to create every time. It's like they did it. It's like they rebooted James Bond.
In the scene, the shower scene where he comes in there and he hugs her and he holds her.
Yeah.
It was originally apparently from off interview thing that I saw. She was supposed to be naked in there and then come to her. And Daniel Craig specifically said she needs to be wearing clothes in this sequence because she would not have taken off her clothes and then gone in there after the trauma that she just went through. That's such a good thing that he picked up on and said. And then the director, of course, goes, yeah, when that's presented to me, of course that makes sense. Yes, it's not about sex in any way whatsoever. This is not about the audience being distracted by going, look, there's a nipple. This is the person walked in and said, oh my God, I'm so traumatized. I'm in the shower. I'm doing this. It has nothing to do with anything sexual whatsoever.
Yeah. If people are wondering, like, okay, you guys are saying that, it's so good, but why? How did they do it? It seems like that. It's the level of intimacy, and it's something you've never seen in a James Bond movie. The idea that we see Bond kill someone with his bare hands in front of a woman, and she has to even help him get away with the murder. She is essentially complicit.
That's why she's traumatized. Yeah, that's why she's
exactly, because she feels like she has killed someone. And to see death being treated so real in a James Bond movie, and then Daniel Craig, as Bond, he goes to the mirror and the blood is on the shot glass or the liquor glass, and he pours it, and you can tell he's shaken up, and no pun intended,
stirred.
And it feels like he almost himself is traumatized, like. And then he sees that Vesper's traumatized, and they share in that, And again, that's yet another death. They can never go back. And now he and Vesper have a relationship from that point on that I think is changed. And it's like they share things that feel so deep and honest with each other, things that are only they have experienced, together. And I think that's what creates that type of intimacy. And so that's why you believe later on in the movie, these are two real human beings who are really in love with each other, and you are invested in that, and you're taken on the journey,
The other thing I wanted to say before, now the shaken, not stirred, right? I really like that this time when he's going, who gives a fuck, or whatever the exact line is. I don't give a fuck. I don't give a damn. That was, to me, very precise in the fact of showcasing the fact that he's not James Bond yet, because one of the fan theories, and if people read the books, which I haven't, but I always heard the fan theory of the reason that he gets his martini shaken, not stirred, is because once he's James Bond and he's going to be having a drink around other people, he wants to be sharp and stay sharp. Now, if you get your drink shaken, it bruises the not just the alcohol, but it takes the ice and breaks it up into smaller pieces very quickly, and you're shaking it, breaking them up, melting them quicker, so when you pour them into the actual martini glass, you're getting more water than you would if it was stirred. So he wants to have his wits about him, and he wants to have more water in his drink than normal. And that's what James Bond in the later films does. I want it shaken, not stirred, because I don't want to get drunk. I want to have my wits around me. I don't know. I might have to pull my gun. I might have to fucking fight somebody. I might have to do something. But they very specifically within this one goes, I don't give a fuck. He's not thinking about that. He's not James Bond yet. He's not the guy in the last scene who just shot you in the leg, holding up his gun going, I am fucking James Bond. He's the infant 18-year-old kid going, I don't care how you fucking give it to me. I want to get drunk. Fuck this shit. I don't care. I'm playing cards right now. fucking give me something that gets me drunk.
Okay, that's really interesting. I love that. See, I always just thought it was a cool thing to say. I never really read into that.
Yeah, so if you stir it, the ice does not melt as quickly than if you shake the fucking thing up.
I love that. But in this one, he doesn't care
He doesn't give a fuck.
because he's a little more reckless. He's more green. He's more inexperienced.
He's an
And
18-year-old kid ready to get his heart broken.
okay,
I think that's a
okay,
metaphor throughout this entire film. This is a 17-year-old boy who is not a man yet.
right, right. And he doesn't think it's important. Is it? Do you want it shaken or stirred? And he says it doesn't matter. But it does matter.
I'm gonna get fucked up either way. It doesn't matter to him. So he
Okay,
doesn't think
wow.
about it. But when he becomes James Bond, then he wants it shaken, not stirred. He's then an adult who thinks about every
Okay.
decision that he makes.
Wow. Yeah. And by the way, I said like, oh, they took the humor away and they kind of made it this more serious version of Bond. But what I love about it too is that it's not that serious. Like it still has a fun tone. It's still playful. He still does make jokes. Shaken or stirred. Do I look like I give a damn? I think my favorite joke in the whole movie is after he gets poisoned and he comes back to the table and he says, that last hand nearly killed me.
Oh, it's great.
I mean,
No,
it's
that's
just
great.
classic James Bond pun.
That's yeah, that's what it's throwback to, like the old school James Bond. That's the
Yeah,
James Bond that
yeah.
everybody knows.
And that's why I love this movie is because they give it enough of the old Bond, but they make it new. And it's like, it still feels like James Bond. He still has gadgets. He still wears the tuxedo. He still says his one-liners, but it's brought into the modern era and it's given this psychological depth. And to me, it just elevated the character and it made it so that the character is relevant in the modern age. And now people want to see, okay, who's the next James Bond? Now they want it to keep going, but they only want this franchise to keep going because they love what Daniel Craig did. To kids now, it's like they don't care what their dad watched. Like I said, my wife said, "Why are you watching a dad movie?" She doesn't care about Sean Connery, but she loves Daniel Craig.
Weren't you at one point those kids where you go, I don't like this movie of what this Daniel Craig guy is doing. I want the other things. This isn't what I wanted. Like I like exploring this within our conversations. Is that you had a bad viewing when you first had this viewing, and now you're having a different viewing. I find that very interesting. Was the movie ahead of you? Or has the movie changed or has the movie not changed? Like, what is your perspective on that? Because I love the fact that you're able to go, I didn't like this movie when it came out. And now I have a newfound respect for it. And I've gotten that respect for this movie. Like, was the movie ahead of you?
Yeah, I think so. Because what the filmmakers were doing at that time is they were saying, how do we reinvent this character, for the entire pop culture? Where are we in 2006? We're coming into this new era socially. The values have changed. We see men and women differently. We see gender relations differently. James Bond feels like this antiquated character. How do you bring this character into the modern age? So the filmmakers were seeing it from a much larger point of view. All I was seeing when I was in my early 20s as a Pierce Brosnan fan was, I want more, kiss, kiss, bang, bang, joke, joke. You know what I mean? I just want more fun, action movie. And I wasn't ready for like a psychologically complex, very wounded, deep, plot where the 3-act structure is not really 100% hitting all the beats and it leaves you on this cliffhanger. And it's like, what is this movie doing? I wasn't ready for that at all. And so it's like my brain was calibrated to Pierce Brosnan, and my first viewing of Casino Royale was through the filter of Pierce Brosnan, and
Yes.
now
Yeah.
Pierce Brosnan has worn off, and I just take Casino Royale for what it is.
I still
And
love Pierce, though. Just got to say, still love Pierce.
yeah, the main villain gets killed not by Bond. The hero in this movie doesn't really kill the villain, quote unquote. Mr. White comes in and kills the villain for Bond. Now, you could argue, well, Bond, because of his strength and his determination, he sort of pushes Le Chiffre into a position where he's, destined to be killed. So, but that's what's so interesting is that this is like a more mature version of an action movie. It's this kind of intricate plot about this this underworld organization that's kind of secretly running things, that's affecting the stock market. And Vesper doesn't even come into the movie until like 45 an hour into the movie, something like that, right? So like the biggest character, like you said, it's really the story of Vesper, but Vesper doesn't even come into it until later into the film. There's like two gigantic action sequences before she's even introduced. It's like you have an entire plot going, and then she comes in way later and she like elevates the movie. The movie's incredible at the beginning. It's got two of the greatest action sequences of all time. And then Vesper comes in, greatest Bond girl ever, and elevates the movie even more from there. And then Le Chiffre is incredible, and he gets killed in this sort of unusual way. And then it goes into this kind of like latter portion of the film in Italy. And now it's his romance with Vesper. He retires, like you said, which is really interesting. And so the structure is like really unusual because I think it kind of leaves you wanting more a little bit, and it's not just 100% classic, first act, turning point, second act, finale, it's not expected. That's one of the things that I think makes the movie hold up so well over the years and why it has aged really well. Is it because it gives you all the elements, but it changes it just enough yet where you're intrigued and you're interested. It's like it makes you lean forward. Like, what's really going on here? Like, oh, that's interesting. Bond didn't just, shoot Le Chiffre or throw him off of a tall building or something. It's not just the same thing we've seen every single time. There's a Michael Jackson quote, I think, where he said, if you make the beat of the song slightly off rhythm, like just ever so slightly, it's actually more catchy because your brain is trying to grab on and trying to understand the beat.
It's trying to make order out of chaos.
Yes.
That's amazing. Let's just get into I want to know about how you feel about that, because that bothered me within the context of them tying it up well.
Which part?
It's a little ambiguous because the part of like, okay, she had to go away, but then M goes, no, it's okay, don't worry, she still loved you. She was doing this for her boyfriend.
Right.
And then you go, okay, well, that doesn't make it feel any better at all. She's doing this for her boyfriend. And then you start thinking a little bit further and you go, okay, well, listen, if you love me so much and you really wanted to be with me and you got the little seashell in your bag that we look at the fucking seashell, and he looks at that going like, oh, there must be another side of you that really just wanted to get away with me and live on the ocean and the beach forever. But if you were really that deep in with me, wouldn't you sit there and go like, listen, there's this guy I care about and I got to take this money and I got to do this thing. I need you to be in on this mission with me. I need you to do this for me.
Right.
And then James Bond probably would have just done that. The character of Daniel Craig would have been like, okay, now I understand I'm doing this. But the fact that there was the deception within there where she goes, I'm not going to tell you, but I'm going to leave breadcrumbs after I'm dead. And then you're going to be like, yeah, I left my phone here so you can kind of find me and then whatever the fuck. Like,
yeah,
I just kind of want the Andrew take on that. How do you look at that now?
Well, that's one of those movie things where like, if she did open up to him, then it would have been a completely different movie. So that's not the story they're telling. And that's exactly the point, is that she does hide that from him. She doesn't open up. She doesn't include him in whatever she's working on. That is the betrayal. It's remaining closed off and, having ulterior motives and then, betraying you later down the road. And
which
then
is why at the end he goes, I'll never, M is like, yeah, so
right.
Basically comes to the fact that you're never going to trust anyone again. And he goes, yeah, I'm coming back in. I'm going to work.
And they can't tell the story of like the first Bond girl opens up to Bond and, teaches him how to love. Like, that's not the story they're telling. They're telling the story.
It's weird. I didn't look at her as a Bond girl. I looked at the first girl as a Bond girl. He's fucking the other guy's wife. She's inaccessible. This one was like open and there and everything. And it was like, they did do a really good sleight of hand trick. in this movie where
Yeah.
you're like, oh, Bond could find love. And I didn't look at her going, she's a Bond girl.
That's how good the character is, and that's how good the
Yeah.
writing is. That's how good the story is. That's how good the actress is. That's how good Daniel Craig is at Bond. That's a testament to how good the movie is. You don't even you don't even see it as a Bond girl. It's like I said, it's like this movie's not a Bond movie. It's just a movie. It's just a great movie. She's the best Bond girl of all time.
Funny. So you immediately put her into a Bond girl, but she sneaks in the back door of being a Bond girl.
She is a Bond girl because she's a female character in a Bond movie who Bond falls in love with. I mean, she is a Bond girl, but she's so rich and well developed and well written.
But, okay. Then just to quantify that, you're saying to be a Bond girl, Bond has to fall in love with her, because I think most of the Bond girls in the movie, in any movie, Bond doesn't fall in love with them. He just has sex with them.
Yeah, that's true. But just, being in a Bond movie. If you're an actress in a Bond movie playing one of the female leads
that Bond has sex with, then you're a Bond girl. That's the line of demarcation. If you're in a Bond movie and Bond fucks you, you're a Bond girl. I would put her at a different level, though. She emotionally got through to him, which you never see that in any other Bond that I recollect. I'm sure some certain Bond people who are super into this go like, no, wait a minute. There's one Roger Moore movie that happened at this one point in time. Emotionally, it was there. But either way, they're making a big point that, like,
And
dude, he's ready. He gives up his life. He goes, I'm done. I'm done with your 007 bullshit. I want to live with her on a beach forever. I don't care about anything that ever happens. He gives up his life for her.
Yeah. Yeah, and she's such a strong, powerful character in a way where when you watch the future films, you'll see that there's a carryover where she's not in the future films, but her character, the shadow and the
Oh, he becomes obsessed?
Yes.
Does he become obsessed?
No pun intended, the specter of her of her death, and almost like the ghost. Vesper's ghost kind of lingers.
Spectre, Vesper? Is that a
Well, Spectre is the name of the secret criminal organization.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that.
But so you don't know anything. Yeah, this is great because you don't know anything about James Bond. So that's why I really wanted your opinion on this.
No, I just know Vesper. I know Vesper.
Yeah.
He's obsessed with Vesper.
Yeah. So yeah, Spectre is the secret organization. You'll see that that's the breadcrumb.
Do we ruin things further though as I watch further? Are we gonna ruin the fact that, like, I don't know. I liked their love. I actually really liked that. I liked the 20-minute section of seeing James Bond in love and really happy. Like, I love that. She's coming to him. His balls are fucking the size of grapefruits, and he's sitting there and he can't move. And she comes over to him and she's this and that. I'm like, she can't be this devious where she's just like totally manipulating you and going, I'm just here to save my ex-boyfriend, like, or my boyfriend or whatever. I'm like, there's no way. Like, she did have feelings for him.
Well, one of the things I love so much about this film and the plot is that it is very complicated. These kind of questions that you're asking of, like, did she really love him? Did she have real feelings for him?
I'm not asking this question. I think she definitely did. I'm on the side of that.
Okay, so there you go. And then of course Spectre, of course Mr. White, who comes in at the end, this kind of nameless guy.
Yeah, so that's who Spectre is, because I know Mr. White, which he looked at the fucking text message and it says, hey, Mr. Bond, like, I'm leaving breadcrumbs for you after I die. Here's my cell phone. Mr. White, you're going to shoot him in the leg. You're going to find out. That's why when he goes, I am James Bond, and we're fucking like, I was like, I got to watch the next one. I didn't watch it before now.
There you go.
But I'm going to watch it before our next podcast.
Yeah. I kept thinking during the movie that, he dies multiple times. And he literally dies at one point when he's poisoned, and he goes into like cardiac arrest and he flatlines. And then Vesper has to, and notice Vesper is the one who, quote unquote, brings him back to life. So it's because of Vesper's involvement. She's almost like this guardian angel who's there to kind of save him. And so she brings him back to life, which I think is a metaphor for the love, the idea that love brings you back to life. So he dies there, and then he's able to continue into the game. And then he has another more subtle version of a death when he is tied to the chair, naked, being tortured by Le Chiffre. And then Mr. White comes in, kills Le Chiffre, and there's the death of Le Chiffre. And then it does this fade out to black, and it fades up into this kind of white haziness because Bond passes out. And he's then rescued, but visually the way it's shown in the film is like through this almost like dream sequence where everything's white and hazy. And then he wakes up and he's in Italy and he's sitting outside, and it's almost like, how did he get here? Which then leads to the love story with Vesper. And the reason I mention that is because it's tying into what you're saying about how he's only vulnerable with Vesper and he only kind of opens up. And that's like a really actually key change with him is I was thinking that as I was watching it this time, it does seem like he genuinely wants to retire. Maybe there's a part of him that doesn't quite believe it.
I think he does. That's the viewing that I have. I don't see him lying to himself or lying to. I think we're seeing that true underbelly of the James Bond character. I think that's what they're exploring in that 20 minutes when he goes, "Can I trust somebody else outside of anything?" They've set up, I'm an orphan, I'm this, I'm that, I have nothing. So he went into this, and then he goes, wait a minute, I found this one other person that I think that I can love and trust and respect, and they'll have my back. And I think the whole essence of this movie is him going, I allowed somebody outside of this 007 program and the British whole thing. I go, I let them in, and I think I'm going to have this life and do this whole thing. And then he goes, oh, I'm not safe there. That person lied to me. And then M goes, no, she really didn't lie to you. She actually just did it for this. And he goes, yeah, no, it's still a lie. Fuck that bitch. I'm done. And then is back into the fold. And that's when M goes, I really got you.
Yeah.
Are you done with that foolishness?
Yeah, we talked about this a little bit in the Complete Unknown episode as well, that a lot of times stories are like a metaphor for the inner journey. It's a journey into the self. And with this movie, it's almost like Bond is journeying deeper into his own heart. And he's discovering about himself, right? He has the shield up at the beginning, kind of. And he thinks he can handle it. He goes in like, again, kind of cocky, sort of reckless. And he comes out the other side kind of reborn. And it's at that moment that he can change himself and open up and say to Vesper, I do love you. I'm no longer James Bond now. I'm not James Bond. I am transformed. I'm different.
I think at that point he's never been James Bond.
Right.
That's my viewing.
That's the point where he's on another path where he will never be James Bond, right? That's not the Bond that we know.
Right. Yeah. He'll never fully transform into what M wants him to be, what everyone else wants him to be.
If he were to continue on that path, he would not become James Bond. And so that's the moment of the movie where he's the most different. And it's his most vulnerable self. It's his innermost self.
It's the underbelly, man. We're getting to see the underbelly. That's why I liked this viewing after I got halfway through, and then I started putting that together through Andrew's eyes. And I started looking at that going, why did you pick this movie? Why do you like this movie? What's going on here? And then when I saw that, I said, oh shit. Okay. He's way ahead of my viewing. And apparently the director of this was way ahead of all of our viewings because you did not like it at the time and everything. So this is why movies are interesting. The movie hasn't changed since that time period, but our viewing perspective has, and society has.
It is kind of like a young man's love story in the sense of Bond does venture deeper into his own heart, into himself. He opens himself up. He allows himself to be vulnerable. He changes who he is for this woman.
How much more vulnerable can you be metaphorically than sitting on a chair with a hole cut out with your balls dangling below it and somebody smacking your balls over and over? You can't be more vulnerable than that.
What a metaphor for a relationship with a woman.
Yes, sir. May I please have another?
So yeah, he's very vulnerable, and and he opens himself up to Vesper, and then he's betrayed, and then it's because he's betrayed, then he becomes James Bond, and so that's actually the full initiation, and that's why I kind of go back to like M, where I don't think M did know all that much. I think you could argue like how much did she know? That's kind of an interesting question.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I don't think she knew that much. I don't think she's lying to Bond at the end when she goes, "We didn't know about this. The things run cold, whatever." I don't think she's lying to him. I think she's the Obi-Wan character within this that is sitting there going like, "I'm guiding you through. Are you going to get there, young Padawan? Are you going to be able to break through?" And then she sees him go off on his thing. I knew he was going to go on a vacation. Oh, I knew it was going to be you. You still wouldn't put the job down. But then she got a little surprised when, oh, wait, now he fell in love and he's going over here. Okay. And now she has the conversation with him at the end of the movie going like, are you done with that? You over with that?
Yeah.
Do you not trust people anymore? And she gives him a little bit of hope in that sense of going like, well, no, here's the reasoning behind why she did that. She had her lover and this was that and whatnot. She's trying to give him a little bit of whatever, but she's still going like, are you coming back into the fold? Are you coming to the dark side? Are you here? That's different than Obi-Wan, but you get the metaphor.
Right.
She's like, can we trust you to fully be on what we're talking about and not be distracted any longer? And he's going, the interesting part is he goes, the bitch is dead. And even at that point though, she goes like, she comes as a comforting mother to go like, hey, just to let you know, it's not just black and white when it comes to that.
Yes.
Here's the gray area there, and he still doesn't care. Yeah, he looks at the seashell and the whole thing we've mentioned, but she's still going like, all right, I got you. Bond's back, and he's going to be my little workhorse.
Yes, the key word you said there was mother. That's the way I see M, is that I don't think M was necessarily manipulating him per se or lying to him, but I do think that she has that mother metaphor of like, my son has fallen in love with his first, woman who's not me, and his allegiance is not to me, and I don't like that, and I can't trust him now. And so I think when she says to him, well, then you've learned your lesson, I don't think that she necessarily manipulated it, but I do think that she kind of revels in that a little bit and is probably happy. It's like, okay, good. Now he's going to come back to me.
But she does try to pick him up. I 100% agree with you, but she does try to pick him up a little bit, as a mother would do to a son. And she gives him the info of going like, hey, okay, you learned that lesson, but hey, just to let you know, this is why she did this. Are we going to be okay with this? Like, I want to get, like, you've already been smacked down enough. Let me give you a little bit of solace. Let me be the mothering figure. Let me tell you everything's going to be okay.
She hits him with the lesson, but she still gives him a little bit of that.
Still gives him the pillow. Still gives him the pillow. It's okay,
to tie it into the next movie, she gives him a little bit of solace. And the next
I can't
movie,
wait to watch. I'm gonna probably watch this very soon.
Yeah, and I think that's really interesting because that plays into future films, is that the future films become about his relationship with M. And Judi Dench, I mean, this is also one of the things that I think is so amazing about this movie.
Oh, she's great because she was in back when Pierce was there. Like she's been a consistent.
She was, but it never felt like she was a real character that had resonance, and it never felt like she was elevated again to the level where she has dimension, where the M character is a part of the story with dimension.
As we were saying, if the movie itself doesn't have dimension around the character, then everyone's just playing their own get the plot point to the next point.
Yes,
This
exactly.
is the first potential of that. And this is the first potential that we're seeing of the James Bond character within that. So, of course, it would be the first potential that we're seeing in any other character within that sphere.
What this one has that other action movies don't is it has those great characters and great writing, and it has the great love story with Vesper. So it has like the real heart and the depth and the characters, but it is just so exciting and edge of your seat kind of thrill ride with the action.
You ever had one of those nights where you realize you've just spent 45 minutes reading about medieval sword fighting techniques, and somehow you still haven't paid your electric bill? Yeah, me too. That's why this episode is sponsored by Focus Funnel, the first productivity app designed for people who mean well but get distracted by literally everything. Focus Funnel doesn't just block social media. It blocks recipes, conspiracy theories, even that one article about how Macaulay Culkin is now. Yeah, it knows you. You set a task, Focus Funnel builds a digital task moat around it. You either complete a task or you sit in silence like a medieval peasant until you do. Download Focus Funnel today. Use promo code Andrew and Greg for 30 free minutes of guilt-free web surfing once you finish your to-do list. Focus Funnel, for brains that mean well but wander hard. I was interested, yeah, I'll tee it up for you again. I'm interested to see what you think about the structure of this film because it threw me off. My thought process on a rewatch was going Casino Royale, the showdown on the OK Corral is going to be them doing playing poker. I thought that was going to be the ending of this movie. And rewatching it, I was like, wait a minute, this is like halfway through the movie and we're done with the whole poker thing. And I was like, where the fuck are we going? And it threw me off for a loop structure wise, just because of my preconceived notions of what I thought I was going to go back and revisit 20 years later.
Yeah, I mean, the finale of GoldenEye, to give you a great comparison, is, there's a showdown between hero and villain on top of a giant satellite. And, they have a fist fight.
You're right.
They have a fist fight, and one of them, we know who is thrown off the edge, and it's a classic hero villain showdown, and that's what you expect essentially in every action movie, is that it's ultimately going to lead the hero and the villain to fighting each other at the end, and so that's what we're expecting. And here's a movie where, like I said, the opening is like this kind of introduction of Bond as an agent. Then he's introduced to the woman, the main, love interest of the film. And by the way, warned by M, right? Given warnings along the way, you're heading into dangerous territory, right? Don't let yourself, be fooled and be vulnerable. And he says, I'll be fine, right? And then entering into the second part of the film, which is the Montenegro sequence, Vesper, the poker game, Casino Royale. And that's where Le Chiffre becomes a more, essentially the main villain of the movie now. That middle portion is almost more like a traditional Bond movie. That's like what we expect from a Bond movie, is more of that middle portion. And usually it's almost like at the end of that portion, that's where a regular Bond movie would have just ended. The main villain's dead, like the story's over, right? Kiss the girl, roll credits. But no, this movie has more of a complicated, unique, interesting story to tell. And that's what I love so much, is it keeps you kind of guessing and keeps you asking questions. And so you get to the end of that second portion, and you have the torture scene, key scene. And then, Bond has another kind of metaphorical death where he passes out and wakes up. And he's a changed man. He's been through his trials. He's been tested. He's been pushed to the brink. He goes to the deepest, darkest place. And he and Vesper make it through. And they both have this transformation. Now, of course, there's...
and that's where it becomes complicated and gray area.
Yes, because there's some trickery. Because I think part of it is that Vesper is also pretending to be a new person, that she's still on her mission. Her mission is get the money. She then essentially is now seducing Bond
But she still loves Bond. Do you not? You're on the same thing. She does love Bond. She's totally head over heels, wants to deal with Bond. She has this ex that she's on a mission to, I need to also accomplish this mission. But I don't want to live in a world where I think that the Vesper character, as he's sitting there outside in his thing with his giant balls that are, the size of fucking rucksacks, and she's coming there to be very nice to him, and she's looking in his eyes. And specifically when she drowns, I didn't get to say my favorite shot in the movie, so I'll give my one shot. I think it's the greatest drowning scene of all time, even past Abyss, which I think is fantastic. When she actually, there's a moment, yeah, and I can't consider it a one shot, but if I had to pick the one shot out of the reverse shot that's going on when he's reaching for her and she reaches out, it's the shot right before she reaches out. The actress, they made her, or they trained her, or she figured out to release bubbles from your mouth and then make it look like you're gasping back in, and then within the same shot, release more bubbles out of your mouth. It is the most effective drowning scene that I have ever seen in any movie whatsoever, and I will argue the most effective death scene that I've ever seen in the movie whatsoever. Her sitting there within a cage, and she pushes herself to the back, and she goes, "This is it. I'm letting it all out." And then she gasps, and the air goes out, and she gasps back in and goes. She makes the movement as if she's pulling water into her lungs, and then she pushes out more air. And there's one shot, because I knew Andrew was going to say, "What's your favorite shot of the movie?" So this, I would say, is the most effective shot of the entire film. Bubbles come out. It looks like she draws air back in. She's faking it, obviously, because the actress is not dead to this day. And then more bubbles come out after that. I said, that looks to me, and her struggle looks to me like the most, even past Abyss, which I think is the most terrifying drowning sequence I've ever seen in my entire life. That performance, if I had to pick a one shot, it's not about the shot in this. It's about the actress murdered that shot. Because there aren't one shots in this movie where I'm like, wow, that Steadicam shot was great. There's none of that in this movie. This movie is shot, reverse shot, wide shot, great, little dolly, little this, little that. Okay, everything is done with cuts in the entire movie.
But there are some really nice moments, like when Bond loses for the first time and is kicked out of the poker game, and then everyone gets up from the table and he's just left sitting. There are some nice mise-en-scène, nice visual moments.
Now I gotta watch this movie again. Now I gotta watch this movie again.
I did think, though, yes, while there might not be any kind of bombastic, stylistic types of camera movements and things like this that you're talking about, maybe not things that call attention to themselves.
So what's your favorite one shot?
Well, but I just wanted to say that I think the way the movie was directed was really beautiful, because it's mostly like locked off, tripod, steady shots, very controlled. When you watch the later Bond movies, they went in more of a kind of handheld direction.
So they went Bourne Identity. So you're saying, is it unfair then with this movie particular to say what's your favorite shot in the movie?
It's a great question. It's not. It's a movie where I love scenes, the action scenes, the parkour, the scene on the train where he flirts with Vesper.
But when he flirts with Vesper, it's wide shot and over the shoulders. So what I'm saying is it unfair to say that every movie that we're going to look at, that we should have the what's your favorite shot? Because as I was viewing it, I thought of you going, every movie would be cool to ask ourselves, what is the favorite shot in this movie? And I was watching this movie going, there's not a great perfect one shot within the movie. The movie is a smorgasbord. Like it doesn't work as an insubmersible unit where you go, that shot was great. It works as an overall.
It's a movie of moments. And I think that the moment when he first walks in wearing the tuxedo,
You know, it's not a shot
Okay.
per se
Yeah, yeah,
in
yeah.
the
Yeah,
way
yeah.
that you're talking about. It's not like, oh, the camera pushes in and the lighting looks a certain way. But it is the first time in this rebooted version of James Bond where we see him as James Bond. He walks in, he has the tuxedo, the music kind of gives its little, da da, and you feel like, wow, okay,
Every girl wants to fuck him, and every guy wants to be him. Yeah.
right, and you feel like, okay, you're in a James Bond movie. I mean, the shot where he walks out of the water, on in the Bahamas, right, in the blue trunks.
Wow, you knew the color. You knew the color.
Yeah, because it's, again, it's not necessarily because it's an iconic moment. That's what I'm saying.
True.
It's a moment. It's not necessarily the exact framing of it as like a
True.
movie image.
Is Holly Berry the one that's in his? Is she coming up in? Is she within his world?
No,
That's not Pierce Brosnan.
That was Pierce Brosnan. Yes.
Oh, okay,
Yes,
got it. So that's
yes.
also a random maybe
She
potential
also,
callback.
yeah, I think you're thinking of that because they tried doing a callback to Ursula Andress with her, where she walks out of the water. And see, I think that one is like, oh, okay, they're doing a callback, but it didn't feel as resonant. Having Bond himself come out of the water.
Well, my penis might have a different take on that. That felt pretty resonant to me. I don't know if it had callbacks, but if I was gay, I'd be all over him. I would, yeah. Like I was kind of saying, like every man wants to be him, every woman wants to fuck him. But that also goes for for Holly Berry. Every man wants to fuck her and every woman wants to be her. So it's a slight. Sorry, back to sleight of hand. But yeah, definitely lost train of thought there.
Yeah, just I mean, because yeah, we never wrapped it up.
We
So
didn't.
funny.
Yeah, I want to
Yeah.
know what you feel about the structure in whole.
And then yeah, that third part of the film that really, the final sequence is now his relationship with Vesper, and it kind of has this unusual turn. What we thought of as the main villain is dead, and the story takes this new direction where it's like, well, what is the movie even about anymore? What are the threads like? And it's almost a little mysterious. And what you kind of realize is, of course, Vesper is the femme fatale, and the plot is really about the money. And then, it leads to the revealing of Spectre. And it's basically like all of these trials and all of these initiations have essentially rewarded Bond, and he then is given in this film, the final clue that leads him to somebody who's more directly connected to what he's really after, which is this secret criminal underworld that's really running the entire planet.
So you know more about me because you've watched the sequels. I'll watch them soon. But I rewatched that ending a lot of times. And I rewatched what M said to him, and I rewatched the little seashell, and I read a lot into that. And then I watched the aspects of what M was saying to him when he's going like, fuck the bitch, she's dead, it's over. I was reading into that, and James Bond said right prior to that, she left her phone here. She wanted me to find this. Meaning, she wasn't fully trying to fuck me, but she was leading me here, the clues to be able to do this because she knew she had to do this and whatever. And M gives the excuse she needed to do this for her lover, ex-lover, whatever it is, and she had to do this aspect to it. In the end, James Bond is going to shut down no matter what and go, okay, I can't trust other people. But I think, and I want to know your perspective on this, did she love James Bond?
I think she has to, because that's why she kills herself. Right? I was watching it with my wife, and my wife said she has to die because she feels too guilty. Like, she does love James Bond. She loves him so much, she can't live knowing that she betrayed him. And so once he knows that she betrayed him, she has to die.
So basically, you and I just talked for 3 hours, and your wife got to the greatest point of the film. Got it. Understood.
Yeah.
We milly-mouthed for 3 hours, and your wife was just like, no, that's the meaning of the whole movie. Get out of the way. Got it. Understood. That makes sense. No, that's it. That is it. And she does it. She does it okay, knowing that she left him the text message that he's gonna find of going, here's Mr. White and here's this. She knows that she left all the things that she goes, he'll get it. He'll get it.
I guess so. Yeah, she leads him, to the next. She knows that he'll keep going, and she gives him the next clue.
One glad thing I'm good to know is that you know that your wife knows, and she knows better than you. So get out of the fucking way. Yeah. So basically,
So yeah, I mean, what do I think about the structure overall? I think I kind of answered it before about what I was saying about like Michael Jackson.
somewhat, but it's not. Is it? It's not
um,
not a perfect 3-act structure.
Yeah, and I think that's why it's so compelling. Again, that's why it's like over the years it holds up because it's like you kind of want to know it's always kind of keeping you guessing and you want to know what's going to happen next. It feels satisfying as its own complete adventure, but then it does give you, I guess, what a movie like this is designed to do, which is also that anticipation for the next installment. And it achieves both of those things really elegantly, is it doesn't feel like a trick. It feels like it's genuinely pulling you into the next chapter and you're excited to see where that leads, because they did give you a full, satisfying single film here.
Just like every time you go to the casino and they say, hey, do you want to stay in for the next hand and lose more money? It was a great sleight of hand.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, isn't that what every movie is, right? A magic
It's what every
trick.
movie, every good movie potentially should be if it's trying to do that.
Yeah. Every movie is an illusion, or as you said, every good movie. A good movie is an illusion. It makes you believe. You see it from only one angle. You only see it from the side of the audience watching the two-dimensional screen. And so you believe it.
You see it from the author's perspective, what they want you to see. I want you to feel this, so I'm going to play this music. I want you to feel. I fell in love with the idea that James Bond could fall in love. That's kind of what I wanted to say about this movie. I love the fact that I never thought about that beforehand, but when watching this movie, I was like, I just want him to be happy on a beach. Just go away with the woman. Stop killing people. Stop worrying about stuff. Fall in love with the woman and just go live happily ever after. This gave you the tease of that and then said, no, that's not his story. His story is he needs to be over here just doing his job, working for fucking England, killing people and doing whatever the fuck. Yeah. And then you go, oh, fuck. Okay. Yeah, that's his curse. That's his.
Yeah. Yeah. And he does seem to fall in love with her. But at the same time, that very first line on the train, she says, I'm the money. And he says, every penny of it. So notice how she's the money right at the beginning and she's the money at the end, and that's all she is. She's just the money.
Right, but but there is that character arc where he didn't notice that. He forgot it and he let that go. Yes, she gave the foreshadowing and she said, I'm just this. But you'd have to say his character within the context of this storyline 100% fell for it. You're not thinking Daniel Craig is sitting there going, at a point in this movie, you go, he's truly given himself over. He's going, fuck 007, fuck fucking England, fuck your shit. I want to be with this woman. I want this, and that's it. Like, you give yourself up to that storyline that they're presenting to you at some point as a viewer in this film, do you not?
Completely. Yeah, completely.
Yeah. That was the great sleight of hand by the movie makers who are making this film. They brought you on that journey to make you think that 007 could live a happy life outside of being 007, and he could leave that behind. And then they go, oh, yeah, you thought that? Pulling the rug out. No, he's not going to have that.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like they made James Bond feel real. Like they did it. They made him feel like a real person. They brought James Bond into the three-dimensional real world and made you believe that that's a real guy in England. It's like we never believed that Sean Connery was actually walking around real life, as that guy.
Never.
But Daniel Craig as James Bond, I mean, they did the introduction to the Olympics where Daniel Craig as James Bond meets the real Queen of England, you know? So that's how real he felt, you know?
He's fully formed into what I liked about this movie is it explained that the Sean Connery character is fully formed into being a dead person who will never show you their true self, and they're just surface level. And this origin story explains that. Why would that character be that way? Okay, I've been hurt. I'm not doing this. I'm never going to show myself to anyone else again. And now I'm just going to be flirty on surface level. And yeah, I'll fuck and I'll do this, but I'm going to come here and I'm going to do my job. And that's all I'm going to do. And you're never going to see me. This is probably the only Bond, which may be why you relate to it so much. It's probably the only Bond where you actually see a character and you get to see the person behind it. And you get to see why he's formulated into when he finally goes Bond, James Bond. Like, that's where you get to go, oh, wait, this wasn't a James Bond movie. This was a movie seeing a child growing into James Bond. And now when he goes, I'm Bond, James Bond, you go, got it. It makes the last 20 movies make sense. We've never seen James Bond. We finally now got to see who he was. And then it explains everything else after that. Now, in the sequels, which I haven't rewatched again, I'm excited for because you put one of them on a list. And the one that I remembered of these movies was the one with Javier Bardem. That's the one I can't wait to rewatch. But knowing you, we should rewatch them in order probably because I kind of want to cheat on you and watch the next one after this. Like, I want to get back into the Daniel Craig Bonds quickly. Okay. I'm probably going to rewatch them before we hit them on our list because I'm not going to wait a year. But
interesting. Okay, yeah. What are we watching next?
Oh, what is the next one on the list? What was my next choice after this? So I said Jaws was looking up. This was looking left. My next one must be looking right. There was a thing about visuals.
Actually, I think your next one is looking straight up.
Like Jaws? Same thing as up? It was up again?
What overhead. I'll give you a hint. It's an overhead angle.
Oh, Do the Right Thing.
Yes.
Oh, shit. Okay, yeah, we're going way deeper than fucking Casino Royale. When was the last time you saw Do the Right Thing?
It's been decades, like couple decades. Probably 20 years. Long time.
Oh, I can't wait for you to watch this.
Yeah, I'm really excited. It's been a movie that I've wanted to rewatch, and now's the time.
Now's the fucking time. Dude, this is the movie based within a day. I love those. Like, I like The Breakfast Club because it's in one day.
Yeah.
I like Do the Right Thing. It's in one day. And you get to see Do the Right Thing. You see so many characters, so many things there. Oh, I can't wait to talk about that. Like Casino Royale, like it's a good jump because they're vastly different films. It's on like the hottest day of the year, and it's so comfort to me. I love this movie on all levels, including Weekend at Bernie's level. Like, I like it as comfort movie. I can just watch this movie.
Okay.
And then followed by that, just let the audience know 1978. What's coming up next?
Then it goes to Superman.
Superman, ladies and gentlemen.
Very curious about that one.
All right. I love you. We love you all, people who listen to us who are psychopaths.
I'm the break in the flicker, the cut in the edit, the blade through the credits, a frame they embedded. Light in the distance, persistence poetic. The dark is a prison, I brighten with aesthetic. No stunt doubles, I tumble through trap fights. The scripts in my soul, I control when my track spikes. Whisper in a reel, I reveal with the black light. The dark is a canvas that I carve with the flashlight. Call it a war cry, a cinematic spark. Puzzle in the shadows, a code of the art. It's Andrew and Greg and the legacy embarks. Our voices ignite and we light up the dark.
Do the Right Thing. This is not only a movie that's like a great movie. This is a comfort film.
Okay, and that was going to be my guess. We'll get to it next week, but I have a guess, though. We won't spoil it now, but I do have a guess as to why you picked this.
Really? Why I picked it for our conversation, or why I just like the movie?
But in general, both. Yeah.
So that's weird. In general.
No, for just why you love it.
Okay. Are you going to say, like, oh, we had a bunch of white people shit going on, the white people stuff, and I was like, we got to put in some diversity, because that's not it. That's not it. I love Do the Right Thing. I love Spike Lee.
That wasn't going to be my guess, no.
Okay. Just had to fence that off real quick. If I was like,
Yeah,
you're like, I
yeah.
got an idea. I was like, nah, that's not it.